Okay, hallelujah. It's chapter 16 of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter 16. This Torah portion is called Korah. Korah, because it's all about this man called Korah. And we won't be going on for as long tonight because we've already spent a lot of time reading the Psalms written by the sons of Korah. Fantastic. Some of them Psalms are fantastic, aren't they? Just for our internet friends, we haven't said hi to for ages. Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. And the sons of Korah Psalms, to get up to date with us, start at Psalm 42, right through to Psalm 49, and then Psalm 84, 85, 87, and 88. 11 or 12 wonderful Psalms, all about redemption, all about the Messiah, because these were the sons of Korah that escaped, that did not go in the way of the rebellion. So just before we even started, that's why we've spent time reading the Psalms of the sons of Korah. And so get to know these Psalms, because they're amazing, aren't they? They're so prophetic, so end time, and so for us to prepare. It will help us to prepare. So we're in chapter 16. Let's just read a bit. So Korah, the son of Itzar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi. This is all important. With Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, remember him because you won't be seeing him again. On, the son of Pelet, sons of Reuben. So that, we need to understand what this is all about before we even get going. This is Korah, and he is a Levite. And the other two, or the other three, are Reubenites. And what's going on here is there's an assault on the priesthood and an assault on the leadership. It's a very end time portion. We won't read Jude. We read it last night together, didn't we? Because Jude, the short letter of Jude, mentions Korah, and Jude's a warning. It's a warning. Jude saying, you know what, I wanted to write a lovely letter about our common faith, but I couldn't. I had to write about this because there's these false people coming in. These false brethren are coming in and spreading lies, and they've turned the grace of God into license to sin. Grace is not the license to sin. You might say where sin abounds, grace does more abound, but grace is not a license to sin. But Jude was saying it 2,000 years ago. There's these characters coming in and changing what the gospel was about. And Jude said, I've got to write here about this. And he mentioned Cain. He mentioned Balaam, who we'll be looking at in 2 weeks' time. And he mentioned Korah as people to learn from. So we need to learn from these people. The way we've said every week for a few weeks now, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, all of this happened, it says. All this happened. And it was all written down for your instruction, upon whom the end of the age has come. We need to understand what this is about, because Korah wants the priesthood. He's a Levite, but we've already been through in detail when God said, right, this is how it's going to work now. I'm changing the original order. It was going to be all the firstborn are going to be the priests. But now, because of that sin of the golden calf, when you broke the covenant, there's a change now. And now, it's going to be just the sons of Aaron. They're going to be the priests. The other Levites, the sons of Kohath, like this Korah, they were not priests. Their job was to carry the ark, wasn't it? Or carry the tent poles, or carry all of the tabernacle equipment. It was the Levites' job to do that. But not all Levites were priests. All priests are Levites, but not all Levites are priests. And this Korah is not a priest. It was his job to carry the ark. If he had just kept his mouth shut, and if they hadn't had the rebellion last week and been banished from the land for 38 years, Korah would have had the honour of carrying the ark first into the Jordan River. Because that's how they entered the land, wasn't it? they had the priests had to carry, or the Levites had to carry the ark, and as their feet touched the Jordan dried up, didn't it? And that would have been the privilege of Korah. So Korah was going to want the priesthood, and these other two, Dathan and Abiram, they and On, but as I said, you won't see On again, and that's a great story that On doesn't appear later on in this story. He obviously doesn't carry on with this rebellion. There's hope for even rebels to repent. God gives time for repentance. It says he's not willing for one to perish. I mean, he's just not willing for one to perish. God will be very grieved that people have to perish. It's not his will. Why do you think Yeshua died for the whole world? Because he's not willing for anyone to perish. And we will see tonight, as we've already mentioned, the sons of Korah, and this On will also escape the wrath to come. Amen. But the others won't. Dathan and Abiram, they'll be there, bold as brass, thinking that the dead hard, facing up to God as rebels, and they will get their comeuppance. It's a very end-time message regarding the great falling away. It's like the rebellious stand that's about to come. A rebellion against God's order. So what's their motivation? These are, as I've said, Reubenites. Now Reuben was the firstborn, wasn't he? He was the firstborn, but the firstborn status got taken away from Reuben, didn't it? Yeah. And it got handed over to Ephraim, didn't it? The adopted son of Israel. Ephraim was the grandson of Jacob, Israel, wasn't he? But he adopted him as his own son, and he got the blessing of the firstborn. So these Reubenites are in the same boat as Korah. They've got a bit of a chip on the shoulder. They're like, hang on, we should be leading this. We're the firstborn. They haven't accepted that God has changed the covenant, changed it. It's what it says in Hebrews, doesn't it? When there's a change in the priesthood, there is also a change in the Torah. Well, this is the same thing going on. There was a change in the priesthood, and these people aren't accepting it. It's like, we're the firstborn. Our inheritance should be firstborn. We should be ruling this. So the rebellion that's been going on for a while now, you've seen it going back a few weeks ago when they all started to complain and God sent fire into the outskirts of the camp. But that didn't stop them, because then the whole camp started complaining, didn't he? Moaning about the food, complaining about the manna. The manna represents Yeshua. He said, I'm the bread, I'm the true bread from heaven. So when they were moaning about the manna and they wanted all of that Egyptian food, they were really complaining about the Saviour. And they weren't happy with this life. They wanted to go back to Egypt. Last week, we done all about the spies, didn't we? And the 10 spies that come back with a wicked report. And that wicked report got a hold of all of Israel. Yes. And it says in Hebrews that they were not allowed to enter the land because they had a wicked heart of unbelief. So this is spreading. Then what happened when God said, you're going to be in this wilderness now for 40 years. I mean, a year and a half's already elapsed. So there's another 38 years. And hopelessness has set in. Hopelessness has set in. And then they said, well, we'll just go in anyway. And that's what happened last week. We might not have read it, but he went up, didn't he? Said, we're going to go up and take the land anyway. And Moses said, don't. God's not with you. God, don't do this. But he went ahead anyway. It's proper like kingdom now theology. All of that kingdom now nonsense of we're going to rule now. It's like no one's ruling until he gets back. He'll set up his kingdom, then we'll rule and reign with him. You know what I mean? But this kingdom now mentality that's taken hold of certain areas, that was prevailing in the children of Israel. So in the midst of all of this hopelessness and in the midst of this living death sentence that they know we're going to be wandering now for 38 years, this is what stirs up this rebellion. It's an opportune time to get into the heads of the Israelites to say, come on, let's just go back to Egypt. Let's have it the easy way out. Let's get rid of these leaders. These are taking us nowhere. They're not rebelling against Moses and Aaron. They're rebelling against Jehovah. It says this in Numbers 26. The rebellion was against Yah himself. Because Yah's appointed Moshe. And Yah's pointed that on. It wasn't long ago that they said, and Korah must have remembered this, when they said, oh Moses, you go and speak to him, and all that he tells you, come back and tell us and we'll do it. They must have forgotten this. It's only a year ago or so that they were pleading with Moses to be the mediator. Now they're all questioning Moses. So we've only done one verse, but that's important to know who these people are and what's motivating these people. And learn from this, because this is all how the rebellion of the end of the ages will be. With false leaders, false religious leaders, false political leaders, a one-world government with a one-world religion, all man-made and inspired by the devil. You see it in Revelation chapter 19. There's only this time tonight, and in Revelation 19, the only time that people are mentioned being cast into the pit whilst they're alive. The false prophet and the beast will be cast alive into the pit of the lake of fire burning. They'll be cast alive, just like these rebels tonight. Very important.
So nothing new under the sun.
Nothing new under the sun, no. So verse 2, chapter 16, they rose up before Moshe, with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, representatives of the congregation, men of renown, men of name, it says in Hebrew, men with names, big name ministries, names that you all know that are leading this rebellion and doing it ever so craftily. Just as Jude said, these people creep in, they are crafty. These are spots in your love feasts. These are taking us away from the real covenant that God's got with us and trying to replace it with this mad, man-made religious system. Anything, this is my phrase for this, you will either follow Korah or you will follow Torah. That's what you'll do. You'll either obey the Torah and do it God's way, or you will obey Korah, which is just a religious system invented by men to take you away from the true God. And that's what Korah's trying to do. These are men of renown, men with names, and there's 250 of them. And it's not a coincidence that the word in Hebrew for rebellion has got the numerical value 250. Mem, Resh, Yod. Mem, 40, Resh, 200, Yod, 10, 250 is the number of rebellion. And that's why this is an exact amount given to us. This is just rebellion. That's what this is. Rebellion against God's way of doing things. That's what religion is. Religion is a rebellion against God's way of doing things. All of these feasts of pagan feasts that religion has embraced, it's just rebellion. It's crafty rebellion. The devil comes like an angel of light, and he always says, oh, did God really say? Anything God says, the enemy will oppose it and does it like a snake. Crafty, more cunning than all the beasts of the field. This is exactly what Paul's saying at the end to Timothy. Beware, Timothy, in the end, there's going to be people holding to a form of godliness. It'll all sound God. They'll all be watching God TV all the time. I'm thinking they're all really godly because they're watching God TV. That's not going to make you godly. The last thing it's going to do is make you godly. It's just going to turn you into one of these religious people. It's not godly. God TV is not godly. And if you want to differ with that, just tell me anything that's decent on it. So,
just say something.
Yeah, Mo.
Not being controversial. Sometimes Revelation TV is very good because they're very pro-Israel.
Yeah, I will give you that, Mo, and I will repent for saying that. Yeah, you're right.
So I kind of watched.
Yeah, Revelation TV is better than God TV. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So yeah, Mo's the Revelation TV rep if you didn't know. No, and I'm not. what's the odd God TV thing myself if there's something decent on, because they support Israel as well. But what I'm saying is, Paul said there's going to be people holding to a form of godliness. It'll sound very God, and they'll be going God, God, God all the time, but they'll deny the real power of it. The real power, the real confidence of who he is, and what his name is, and what he stands for, and what real holiness is. Verse 3, they gathered together against Moshe and Aaron, and said to them, they say, Rav Lechem, you take too much upon yourselves. Rav, too much grace. Rav, like Rabbi. Rabbi doesn't mean teacher. Rabbi means great one. That's why Yeshua said, don't call anyone Rabbi. You've got one who is great. One. Yeshua's our Rabbi, my great one. So call no man Rabbi. It doesn't mean teacher. You've been led astray if you've been told Rabbi means teacher. It doesn't mean teacher. It means my great one. Yeshua said, don't call anyone Rabbi. So you take, Rav Lechem, you take too much upon yourselves, for all the congregation is holy. Here we go. All the congregation is holy. Every one of them. And Yahovah is among them. Why then do you exalt yourself above the assembly of Yahovah? See what they're accusing him of? See how crafty it is to make Moshe out like he's some lord over them. We only read in chapter 12, he was the most humble man that's ever lived. Moshe's the most humble man that's ever lived. The only reason these people are alive is because Moshe interceded for them a few weeks ago and got on his face and said, oh God, don't destroy them all. And he's done that a few times. So yeah, if you're going to kill them, kill me. He's not lorded over anyone. God's pointed him to this place. God spoke to him 40 years ago and got him out of Egypt, didn't he? And I met him at the burning bush and said, Moshe, go back and get your people out of there. I've sent you, Moshe. I've raised you up for this, Moshe. Now this upstarts here. Oh, you took too much upon yourself. I mean, it was only a couple of chapters ago Moshe said, this is too much for me, Lord. I can't deal with this. It's not like he didn't know. He had a lot on his plate. So what did God do? He said, don't worry, I'll take the spirit that's upon you and I'll give it to 70 others as well. Moshe's not trying to lord it over them. He's a humble servant. But look at the accusations from these religious people. Why you exalt yourself? So what does Moshe do? The exact opposite, verse 4. When Moshe heard it, he fell on his face. He didn't lord it over them. If I would have done, and Moshe's learned a lot, let's have it right, 40 years ago, Moshe was murdering people. It's like Moshe can't look after himself. Moshe's a bit handy. You can do your in. He murdered someone with his bare hands, didn't he? 40 years ago. But look how much he's learned. Look how humble he's become. The time he's spent face to face with God has changed him. He's become a much more gentle person. Moses 40 years ago would have battered him. Now he's like, just falls on his face. We can all learn from this, especially me. So when he heard it, he fell on his face. We'll see that 3 times in this portion alone, which should remind you of someone else. And he spoke to Korah and all his company, saying, tomorrow morning, Yahovah will show who it is, and he'll show who is holy, because they got it wrong. All the congregation isn't holy. This is what God originally said, wasn't it? When they came out of Egypt, he said, if you will hear my voice, if you will keep my covenants, then you will be a holy nation. But they didn't. And that's the whole point. It got changed. In Exodus 29, you've only got to read Exodus 29 when God's saying clearly, look, it's just Aaron and his sons. They're the only ones who can come near me. No one else can. Anyone else that tries it on will be killed. Not all the congregation was holy. Only the Aaron and his sons were the holy priesthood. So they're trying to make this into a bit of a, oh, we're all holy here, and we are, because we're of a different covenant, aren't we? We are a holy nation now. But, but the standards of holiness have not changed. These people have got it wrong. They're wrong to say that everyone's holy here. anyone can be a priest. Jeroboam made this mistake, didn't he? Jeroboam, that wicked king who set up false worship systems, he appointed anyone can be a priest. Yeah? Do you want to be a priest? Yeah, so no. God has set up this particular priesthood to do this particular job. And every time we talk about priesthood, we've got to start identifying with who we are. We are a royal priesthood. That's who we're meant to be, a spiritual priesthood, 1 Peter says. So verse 5, he said to Korah, tomorrow morning Yahuwah will show who is and who is holy, and will cause him to come near to him. That one whom he chooses, he will cause to come near to him. So we'll deal with that bit in chapter 17. So keep my eye on the time here. But we'll try and get into chapter 17, at least for 15 minutes. And we'll see a repeat of this, when Moshe's going to go through another thing where Yah is going to choose who is his. And that's why I want to spend time with later. That choosing. Beautiful it is. Verse 6, do this. Take census, Korah, and all your company. Put fire in them, and put incense in them before Yahuwah tomorrow. And it shall be that the man whom Yahuwah chooses, he's the holy one. He's the set apart one. You take, it's like touche, tit for tat. You take too much upon yourselves, your sons of Levi. You're accusing me of taking too much upon myself. You're the ones who've taken too much upon yourselves. Take census. This should have reminded them, shouldn't it? It should remind all us of the last people that done this. It was Aaron's own sons, wasn't it? Nadab and Abihu. And they were entitled to approach God. They were Kohen. They were priests. But they done it wrong. They took census, didn't they, and approached God in the wrong way and at the wrong time. And they got destroyed with fire. So as soon as Moshe mentioned census, they should have gone, whoa, hang on a minute. Whoa, I remember what happened to Aaron's lads. They were in spirit when they started messing around with census. So I tell you what, Moshe, we'll pass on that. And he's saying tomorrow, it's like really, think about this, lads. Go away and really think about it. You really want to do this? You know, have a good sleep on it. And I'll see you here tomorrow. Hoping that no one's going to turn up. Hoping they're all going to go, yeah, you know what? 250 of us. That's the number of rebellion. And he wants us to bring census. We know what happened last time. Tell you what, Moshe, sounds. You're in charge. That's what should have happened. Verse 8, then Moshe said to Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi, is it a small thing to you that the God of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself, to do the work of the tabernacle of Yah, and to stand before the congregation to serve it? I mean, come on, Korah. Look at the job you've got. Well, you know, you're the only tribe that can get their hands on this. You're in charge of carrying the tabernacle. Isn't that enough for you? Spiritual pride. And verse 10, and that he has brought you near to himself, you and all your brethren, the sons of Levi with you. Are you seeking the priesthood also? This is the point. Korah wants the priesthood. Korah is like the false prophet that's going to come. Like the false prophet that's going to come. He's going to appear all holy. He's going to have a lot of people, isn't he? Going to deceive a lot of people with his outward appearance of godliness. But he will deny the real power. He'll deny the Torah, just like Korah's doing. Rebelling against God's instructions. Verse 11, therefore you and all your company are gathered together against Yah. It's against Yah you gathered together. And what's Aaron that you complain against him? Moshe sent, next phase now, we dealt with Korah and the priesthood. Now Moshe calls to Dathan. You've heard of him, he's in the Ten Commandments. He's that horrible little fella in the Ten Commandments, that sneaky fella. And that's what the sages tell us, that these fellas, these were the rulers in Egypt. They were like the foremen of the congregation. They didn't get their hands dirty. They'd just been sitting in the office, chatting with the bigwigs, and saying, oh yeah, we'll get that sorted, Pharaoh. Yes, Sam, we'll look after that. And they weren't really the workforce. They were the foreman. They were a different level. They were higher up in their hierarchy. They were men of renown, aspiring to be leaders with this Reubenite firstborn inheritance that they've lost. So this is their motivation. Dathan and Abraham, the sons of Eliab, but they said, we won't come up. We're not coming up. Is it a small thing? Look at this, that you have brought us up out of a land flowing with milk and honey. Are these people serious? They are classifying Egypt as a land flowing with milk and honey. I mean, this is what they're saying, isn't it? You've heard of replacement theology, haven't you? Well, this is replacement theology. They're replacing Israel with Egypt. These people loved Egypt, especially these, because they had a cushy in Egypt. They were in charge in Egypt. They had a bit of power in Egypt. They had loads of people under them in Egypt. And now they know we've got 38 years of wandering in this wilderness. We're going to die in this wilderness. We're never going to actually see the promised land. You know what? Egypt wasn't so bad, wasn't it? You know, let's go back. This is what's been a cry for a while now. Let's just go back to Egypt. These are fancying themselves as the leaders of the Exodus back to Egypt. God's not going to have it. No way, you aren't going back. I haven't brought you out of there to let you go back there. But this is what's going on. Let's go back to Egypt. A land flowing with milk and honey. This is an abomination. It's what we mentioned last week in Psalm 106. It says, this generation despised the land. They despised the promised land. The promised land is, in the New Testament, we would talk about the Holy Spirit. He is the promised one, isn't he? Yeshua promised to send the Holy Spirit. So it's like blaspheming the Holy Spirit, blaspheming the land, because they both got the same promise attached to them. So, it says, so you brought us out, verse 13, from a land flowing with milk and honey, to kill us in this wilderness, that you should keep acting like a prince over us. This is again what the sages say. They say that this is the two fellas that were fighting. You know, when Moshe had killed an Egyptian, and the next day he went out and he found two Hebrews fighting, and he separated them. And they said then, who's made you a prince and a ruler over us? So it's got that same ring to it, isn't it? They've never quite accepted Moshe as the leader. And here's their opportunity, they think. I love the way we read it in the Gospels, didn't we, a few weeks ago, when Yeshua was given a wonderful sermon. And then someone pipes out from the crowd halfway through and says, hey Lord, tell me brother to share the inheritance with me. It had nothing to do with the inheritance, nothing to do with money. What Yeshua was teaching, it was a very end time message, what Yeshua was teaching. But this fella piped up, and Yeshua said, who made me a judge and a ruler over you? Using the same language, hoping that they would see, wow, yeah, we're appealing to him, we're talking to him like he's the ruler. And that's what Yeshua was basically saying. I am. But can you see, you're even coming to me now to be your arbitrator and your judge? Because Yeshua is a prophet like Moshe. And that's how he acted, like Moshe, and they know he's got wisdom. Let's go to him to settle our judgments. Who made you a ruler over us? Verse 14. Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey. Well, we know why. Because of them spies last week. They were on the verge of entering the promised land last week. The reason we're not going in is because of them spies. It wasn't because of Moses. You've not given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? In other words, are you going to blind us, are you? Are you going to try and put blinkers over our eyes and make out that we've entered the promised land? That's what they're saying. Are you going to kid us? You're going to treat us like we haven't got any eyes in our head and we can't see where we are. We know where we are, Moses. We're in the wilderness. And you're not going to blag us that we've come to a land flowing with milk and honey. They're bitter. These people are bitter. I should have mentioned Korah. Korah's name means bald. Bald. It comes from the word Korach, which we've seen in Leviticus 21, when it says Do not make yourself bald on account of the dead. It's like a pagan mourning ritual. And it wasn't like they'd shave their heads. They'd actually pull their hair out. Pull their hair out the front of their head. And have a big bald patch on the front of their head because of pulling their hair out through grief. And they say this, that the stages of grief are first denial. Denial, grief, and then anger. That's what they say the process of mourning is like. And that's how it started off. They were in denial when God said, you're not going to go into the promised land. They were in denial. That's how we're going anyway. And they got routed. Then the mourning has set in. And the hopelessness is set in. And that's where Korah gets his name from. Pulling the hair out of your head because of grief. Grief over the 10 spies that were killed. Grief over, well, just this hopelessness. And that's why we mentioned faith a lot last week. But you can't have faith without hope. Because it says clearly in Hebrews, doesn't it? Faith is the substance of things hoped for. So if your hope's removed, you can't have the faith. You can't have the faith. That's why it says without hope, people cast off restraint. When you've got no hope, you just... That's why it says in 1 John, those who have their hope fixed on him will purify themselves. That's why we say this is our hen party this every week. We're meant to be a gang of people gathering together and stoking up our fire and our passion that Yeshua is truly coming soon for a bride without spot and blemish. And he's testing people now. He's trying people now. He's trying to purify people now, trying to see whether we will obey him and love him. Because, as we've said many times, it's no point saying you love Messiah if you don't keep his commandments. Because that's your version of love. Because Yeshua said, if you love me, keep me commandments. That's how I'll gauge you. That's how I'll test. It doesn't matter what anyone else says. It doesn't matter if you get a letter off your pastor going, oh, he's very good. He attended church every week. And he's sounding. Yeshua will just rip it up, throw it away and go, whatever. He'll judge you because he knows what's going on. He knows your works. He knows whether you're like, Old Testament, loads of rubbish. He knows. He knows. Lovely conversation we had before. The God, the true God of the creation of the universe is really moving in people's lives, speaking individually to people, confirming things to people, crying out and wanting to understand, what's this about, Lord? I don't want to be into legalism. I don't want to be going back under the law. And all this talk of Sabbath sounds like it's under the law. And then God can show you, no, it's not like that. And he can show anyone that genuinely wants to know. People that want to argue, they just argue. They just argue. But people that want to know, God will speak to them. And you need God to speak to you. You can't have some fella going, it's all sound. Let's come anyway. We're not under the law yet, because people might be under the law. But we are not under the law. You know, that's so clear. We are not under the law. But going back to what I was saying earlier, what Jude said about turning grace into license, that verse, that so famous verse that people quote half of when it says we're not under the law, what does it actually say? What does it actually say? It says sin won't have dominion over us because we're not under the law. We are under grace. Grace is meant to mean that you're victorious over sin. It's not meant to mean, you're just sin and I just get a bit of grace and it's sound. Grace is the empowerment to not sin. And that's what Romans is really teaching. Sin won't have dominion over you because you're under grace now, which is the empowerment of his Holy Spirit living in you, making you a new creation. Write this Torah on your heart, write it on your mind. That's why you won't sin. Not because it's all done away with. Because if the Torah was done away with, there'd be no such thing as sin, would there? Sin is breaking the Torah. It just is. It's brilliant. Amen. So he says, so we're not coming up, verse 15. So Moshe was very angry. This humble man was very angry and said to Yah, don't respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I ate one of them. And Moshe said to Korah, tomorrow, you and all your company be present before Yehovah. You and they, as well as Aaron. Let each take his censer and put incense in it, and each one of you bring his censer before Yehovah. 250 censers, the number of rebellion. Both you and Aaron, each with his censer. Verse 18, so every man took his censer, put fire in it, laid incense on it. You know, they haven't got a care in the world. Oh yeah, whatever. Very deceived, aren't they? You know. And he stood at the door of the tabernacle of meeting with Moshe and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them at the door of the tabernacle of meeting. Then the glory of Yahovah appeared to all the congregation. I mean, wow, the glory of Yahovah appeared to all the congregation. You'd think at the next verse it'd say, and they all fell on their faces and cried out. No. And Yahovah spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. This is what Jeremiah says, and this is what Revelation says. Come out of here, my people. Come out of Babylon. Stop worshipping me the way Babylon worships their gods. Don't worship me that way. I've told you how to worship me. Worship me in spirit and truth. My Torah is truth. That's how I want you to worship me. Don't worship me the way the nations worship them. Separate yourselves. This is what God is saying in this day. Come out of Babylon. Verse 22, here we go again. Then they fell on their faces and said, oh God, I mean, I'd have been like that. Yes, sound, get them, Lord. Batter them. But Moshe's better. They fell on their faces again and said, oh God, the God of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and you be angry with all the congregation? So Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the congregation, saying, get away from the tents of Korah, Dathan and Abiram. Then Moshe rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, depart now from the tents of these wicked men. Touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in their sins. Great judgments about to come. Get out of the way. Do not associate with these people. Remove yourselves. Verse 27. So they got away. Thank God. They got away from the tents of Korah. So we've already mentioned this, but I'll just say it now. Numbers 26, for your reference. Numbers 26, verse 9 and 10 is talking about this. But it says in verse 11, nevertheless, the children of Korah did not die. The children of Korah listened to this message and got off from even their own dad. And that's great, because our fathers have inherited lies. This is what Jeremiah says, isn't it? Jeremiah 16 says, our fathers have inherited nothing but lies. And we need to have the courage to separate ourselves from the teachings of our fathers. These Roman clowns who have brought in error. And they have, they've got daughters, haven't they? Babylon's got daughters, the daughters of Babylon. These are Roman pagan worship systems that religion has embraced.
Children of the harlot.
Yeah, the children of the harlot. This is very serious, this. Very serious. So, Korah survives, they come away, and I've already mentioned this character, On in Hebrew, On. He's not there either. Wonderful picture of salvation. On, the sages say it was his wife. His wife was like that, get away. But whatever happened, On obviously went away, and he slept about this. He slept on it, and he decided, I'm coming away from the rebellion. I am not going to be part of this rebellion. He had the courage to separate himself, and that's what we all need, the courage to stand up for what's right.
Amen.
And not be ashamed of the Torah. Don't be ashamed of the Torah.
God is gracious.
Yes, he's gracious. He's loving and compassionate. And this is a real warning. And thank God people heeded this and got away. But not everyone. So they came out. Look, Dathan and Abiram, verse 27, came out and stood at the door of their tents with their wives, their sons and their little children. And Moshe said, by this you shall know Yahovah has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own will. Who does that sound like to you? Doesn't that remind you of Yeshua? Doesn't it remind you of Yeshua when he was taking on the Pharisees and he was saying, I have not come to do my own will. I have only come to do the will of him who sent me. I do not speak on my own authority. I just say what I hear and I do what I see the Father doing. This is what Moses is saying. Look, I have not exalted myself. I'm not making up this religious system. I'm just doing what God's told me to do. I've not done this of my own free will. Verse 29, if these men die naturally like all men, or if they are visited by the common fate of men, then Yahovah has not sent me. Here's a sign for you. But if Yahovah creates a new thing, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the pit. This is what I said about Revelation 19. You don't see anyone else going down alive into the pit until you get to Revelation 19, when you see the false prophet and the beast getting cast alive into the lake of fire. It's a very end-time message, this. If they go down alive into the pit, then you will understand that these men, they have rejected me. They've rejected Jehovah. Now it came to pass, verse 31, as he finished speaking all these words, that the ground split apart under them. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up with their households and all the men with Korah, with all their goods. Does that remind you of anything? These people are craving Egypt, aren't they? They want to go back to Egypt. And how did the Egyptians die? They used to die like this. And they'd get buried with all their goods, wouldn't they? For the afterlife. No, for that jag Egyptian afterlife that they've got. And they'd get buried with all their goods. Well, that's exactly the same burial that these are getting. You want to go back to Egypt? You want to be like Egyptians? Sound. Get buried alive and have all your goods with you. You want to be like an Egyptian? Die like an Egyptian. That's what's happening. Dying like Egyptians. Verse 33. So they all, and those who with them went down alive into the pit. The earth closed over them and they perished from among the assembly. That's why we spend time reading the Sons of Korah Psalms, because we've seen it, a few of them. If you read them over again yourself, especially the later ones, it's all questions like, can anyone really rise from the dead, etc. Things like this. Yeah, is the answer. Can the dead praise you? Yeah, is the answer. Because there's a wonderful redemption in this. These people went down into the grave. But what happened when Yeshua died? Hey, when Yeshua died, it says he gave out a loud cry and he said, into your hands I commit my spirit. And as he gave up his breath, what happened? Rocks were split. There was an earthquake like this. There was an earthquake and rocks were split and graves were opened. And it says, after he arose, they arose. And this is the reverse of this case, that the dead can come out the graves. And when Yeshua died, graves were opened. And 3 days later, after he arose, people came out of graves. The dead rose. And that's the case has been reversed. Death, where is your sting? Yeshua has overcome death. And the sons of Korah are writing about this in the Psalms, understanding, though we may die, there is still hope. We will live again. We will live again. There's resurrection in Yeshua. We don't have to die and be separated from God. We don't have to die in rebellion. And we were all rebels, let's have it right. Everyone here was a rebel. Everyone here. That's why everyone here needs to be born again, isn't it? To get a new life. Yeah. Amen. Verse 34. Then all Israel who were around them fled at their cry. For they said, lest the earth swallow us up also. And a fire came out from Yahovah and consumed the 250 men. So they didn't go in the earthquake. That was Dathan and Abiram, wasn't it? And his family. But the other 250 rebels, fire comes out, just like it did with Nadab and Abihu. They should have known, tearing up with the senses. They should have known it was going to end in tears. They were going to end up exactly like Dathan, like Nadab and Abihu.
Steve, like a double going down, and Dathan and Abiram, and the beast and the false prophet too.
Yeah. That's what we're saying. But Korah represents the false prophet, the religious system, and these others represent the political system. And that's what's happening here. There's trying to overthrow God's order, trying to overthrow the kingdom he has set up, and trying to set up their own, and using twisted theology to do it, saying everyone's holy. Oh, we remember God said you'll all be holy, but they forgot, or conveniently forgot that God said, like, it's changed now. It's just the sons of Aaron now. And anyone else that approaches me will get destroyed. Nah, we're talking about that. It's all been done away, but it's all been nailed to the cross, all that. Has it? Well, this is what's going to happen to these rebels that say things like that. How disgusting is it to say them things when you really think about it? Yeshua didn't die to do away with the Torah. Oh. So verse 36, and Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, tell Eleazar, the son of Aaron, and the priest, to pick up the censers out of the blaze, for they're holy. Their censers are holy, and scatter the fire some distance away. The censers of these men who sinned against their own souls, let them be made into a hammered plate as a covering for the altar, because they presented them before Yah, therefore they're holy, and they shall be a sign. Here's that Aleph. Vav, Tav again. No, the Aleph, Vav, Tav. I am the Alpha and the Omega. That's the word for sign. And that's what this is now. It's a sign. A sign. Let these censers be hammered into a plate for covering the altar. Let them be for a sign to the children of Israel. So Eleazar the priest took the bronze censers with those who were burnt up and presented, and they were hammered out as a covering on the altar to be a memorial to the children of Israel, that no outsider who is not a descendant of Aaron should come near to offer incense before Yehovah, that he might not become like Korah and his companions, just as Yehovah had said to him through Moshe. So that's clear. They made a plate to cover the altar. That was going to be a testament and a sign to them, saying, don't do it again. Don't rebel my order. Is that all right? Verse 41, on the next day, all the congregation of the children of Israel complained, here we go again, complained against Moshe and Aaron, saying, you've killed the people of Yehovah. Now it happens when the congregation had gathered against Moshe and Aaron, that they turned toward the tabernacle of meeting, and suddenly the cloud covered it, and the glory of Yehovah appeared. It's clear in Hebrews chapter 1 verse 3 who this is. It says in Hebrews chapter 1 verse 3 that Yeshua the Son is the exact representation of his glory. He is the glory of Yehovah. Verse 43, then Moshe and Aaron came before the tabernacle of meeting, and Yah spoke to Moshe, saying, get away from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And for the third time tonight, they fell on their faces. The third time, fell on their faces. What does this remind you of? It reminds you of Yeshua in Matthew. Matthew, somewhere I'll find it now. Matthew, in the Garden of Gethsemane, it says this. In the Garden of Gethsemane, Matthew 27. Is it? What? 26, thanks Laura. Matthew 26. Matthew 26. It says, verse 37. He's in Gethsemane, and he took with him, verse 37, Peter and the two sons of Zebedee, and he began to be sorrowful and deeply distressed. Then he said to them, my soul is exceedingly sorrowful, even to death. Stay here and watch with me. He went a little farther and fell on his face and prayed in Gethsemane. And then it tells us throughout that story, that narrative, if you keep reading, that this happens 3 times. 3 times Yeshua had to fall on his face and pray and say, God, if this cup can pass from me, nevertheless, Lord, not my will, your will be done. And he had to do this 3 times, just as Moshe tonight has had to fall on his face 3 times. He's interceding for the people. And what's going to happen now is a great picture of what Yeshua had to do for us. Aaron is the high priest, who is a picture of the Messiah, who is our high priest. And it says in verse 40, Moshe said to Aaron, take a censer, put fire in it from the altar, put incense on it, and take it quickly to the congregation and make atonement for them. That's what Yeshua has done for us. He's atoned for us. For wrath has gone out from Yahovah, the plague has begun. This is what God's calling for now. He is calling for intercessors now. It's all well and good that Yeshua is ever living and making intercession for us, but he is wanting to intercede through us. This world's dying, isn't it? He's crying out. He wants people to intercede. So Aaron, verse 47, took it as Moses commanded and ran into the midst of the assembly. And already the plague had begun among the people. So he put in the incense and made atonement for the people. This is what Yeshua did, isn't it? He gave his life for us. Yes. He gave his life for us. And he is living now to intercede for us. And his atoning sacrifice makes intercession for us now, doesn't it? It's made intercession for us. It's made the way. Verse 49, those who died. So verse 48, he stood between the dead and the living, so the plague was stopped. Even so, those who died in the plague were 14,700 people. 14,700 people. Besides those who died in the Korah incident. So Aaron returned to Moshe at the door of the tabernacle meeting, for the plague had stopped. Right, so we've got 15 minutes to go. Chapter 17. And we'll come back to that chosen thing now. Verse chapter 17. After all that, Yahovah spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the children of Israel and get from them a rod. From each father's house, all their fathers according to their fathers' houses, 12 rods. Write each man's name on his rod. And you shall write Aaron's name on the rod of Levi. For there shall be one rod for the head of each father's house. Then you shall place them in the tabernacle of meeting before the testimony, before the ark of the covenant, where I will meet with you. And it shall be that the rod of the man whom I choose will blossom. Thus I will rid myself of the complaints of the children of Israel, which they make against you. So Moshe spoke to the children of Israel, and each of their leaders gave him a rod apiece. For each leader, according to their fathers' houses, 12 rods, and the rod of Aaron was among their rods. And Moshe placed the rods before Yahovah in the tabernacle of witness. Now it came to pass on the next day that Moshe went into the tabernacle of witness, and behold, the rod of Aaron of the house of Levi had sprouted and put forth buds, had produced blossoms and yielded ripe almonds. I mean, what a picture this is.
Life in the dead.
That's exactly what this is. George has just said it. It's life from the dead. Because what are these rods? They're just branches, aren't they? They're just dead branches, aren't they? They used to be part of living trees, but now they are dead branches. They can't bear fruit when they're dead, and they're just dead branches. And this is what Yah has said, the one I caused to come back to life. That's the one I've chosen. Like it's what Moshe was saying in the last one. God's going to show you who's he's chosen. And this is the next level of it. How are we going to know who God's chosen? Well, take a rod, and if it comes back to life again, that's the one I've chosen. And that's what that is all pointing to Yeshua, isn't it? Just try and stay with us now, 10 minutes and we finished. This is all pointing to Yeshua, isn't it? Because Yeshua, one of his greatest titles is the branch, isn't it? He is the branch. He's the branch. It says in Isaiah 11 that a branch shall shoot forth. A branch. And it says in Matthew chapter 2, doesn't it, that Yeshua grew up in a town called Nazareth. And this was so that what was written in the prophets might be fulfilled. And these anti-missionaries, these Jews who don't love Yeshua, who are trying to destroy Christians' faith, they'll say, Where's that? Where does it say that? Where Matthew said it was written in the prophets that he's going to be a Nazarene. Where does it say that? And it doesn't say it anywhere. And it has loads of Christians off who go, what? It doesn't say it. Because it doesn't say anywhere that he will be a Nazarene. But it does say in Isaiah 11 that he will be a Netzer.
Yes.
That's what it says in Isaiah 11. He will be a Netzer.
The princess of the dry ground.
That's it. Because that's where Nazareth gets its name from. Nazareth was a town. And we know this because Joseph was from Nazareth. But when he had to go back for the census, where did he go to? Bethlehem. He had to go back to his ancestral town because he was from the tribe of David. But the Nazareth clan left Bethlehem and Judea at the time of the Greek occupation. And they set up shop knowing the Messiah is going to come from us. So we're going to call ourselves Nazarenes. And that's why Yeshua had to come from Nazareth to fulfill what Isaiah said, that he will be a Netzer, a branch that shoots up. But a Netzer doesn't come like a normal branch from a normal olive tree. It comes from a dead olive tree. And somewhere distant, at a later time, a green shoot will come. But it is connected to that olive tree. Might not look like it, but it's connected to that olive tree. That's a very special term called a Netzer. And that's who Yeshua is. He is the branch. He is the Netzer. That's why his name, Yeshua of Nazareth, is so powerful. It's not just going, oh, Yeshua from Hayton. It's Yeshua, the branch. The branch spoken of by the prophets. The branch that would shoot forth. The branch that would come from the stem of Jesse. This is who this branch is. And that's why he's saying, the one I choose, that'll be the branch that comes back to life.
From the king in that line.
Yeah. So this is so important. It's the rod of the man whom I choose. Let's just focus for the last few minutes on this choosing. Because Yeshua is the chosen one, isn't he? It says in Isaiah 42. Let me read it. I'm going to just go quickly. I am going to finish at 10. Isaiah 42, by the way. Yeah. Isaiah 42. Behold, my servant whom I uphold, my elect one. My elect one, in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the Gentiles. He will not cry out, nor raise his voice, nor cause his voice to be heard in the street. You've heard all this. A bruised reed he will not break. A smoking flax he will not quench. He will bring forth justice for truth. He will not fall or be discouraged till he has established justice in the earth, and the coastlands shall wait for his Torah. That's like us. So that's who Yeshua is. He is the chosen one. And that quote from Isaiah is what God speaks at Yeshua's baptism, isn't it? This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. My chosen one, in whom my soul delights. So Yeshua is the chosen one. He is the one chosen. Chosen means also tried and tested. You were singing at the start, George, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. Because he is the chosen one, Yeshua. He was tried and tested, and he passed the test, didn't he? No guilt was found in him. He was without spot and blemish. He was able to take upon himself our sins, because he had no sin. And now he is able to make us righteous. So this chosen thing, this is where it applies to us. So let me just go on a little wander into the New Testament, into 1 Peter. You know all these scriptures. You know all these scriptures, but this is what Yeshua is saying, you see. He is the branch. But then later on in the Gospels, in John 15, he says, look, I'm the vine. And guess who you are? You are the branches. We're the branches of the vine. What are branches for? To bear fruit. It's what, be a funny tree without branches. And there'd be no fruit if there was no branches. And that's who we are. We're part of the Messiah. We are his branches. We are wild branches grafted into the vine, aren't we, to the olive tree? So we're branches, and branches' jobs are to bear fruit. Right? 1 Peter chapter 2, is it? 1 Peter, I'm just going to read a load of beautiful scriptures out about who we are. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 4. Come unto him, this is what you were singing, George, as a living stone, rejected indeed by men, but chosen by God and precious. You also, as living stones, are being built up a spiritual house, a holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God through the Yeshua the Messiah. Go to verse 9 of 1 Peter chapter 2. But here it is. You are a chosen generation. I mean, this is like God had a choice in the matter. God could have passed you by, but you're like that little doggy in the window, the one with the waggly tail, and God's gone, whoa, how much is that? Little dog in the window, the one with the waggly tail. And the answer is, how much? It's going to cost you your son. It's going to cost you your life if you want to purchase that little dog in the window with the waggly tail. And that's who we are. He chose us. I mean, he had a choice. We're adopted. You can't choose your kids, can you? You just get them. You have a kid, and you get the kid that comes out. But with adoption, it's different, isn't it? You've got a choice in the matter. You can go, you know what? Swerve that one. I'll adopt that one instead. And that's what God's done. I don't understand this. I don't understand why he chose us, why he chose me. But he did. And that brings me to my knees. And that gets my hands up in the air. And I'm just like blown away by it, going, what? You chose me. Well, I'm not going to resist that. That's quite the opposite. I'm going to get stuck hard into it. I'm going to say, I'm a chosen generation. He chose me. He chose you. I mean, rejoice in that. You were chosen. And don't belittle the price. It cost him his life to choose you. You are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. See, this is the new covenant now. This is back to what God originally said. If you will obey my voice, I'll make you a holy nation. Well, this is it. In the Messiah, we are chosen. What a word. In Greek, it's eklektos. Eklektos. And it literally means to pick out. To pick out. To have a choice and go, I'm choosing you. I'm choosing you. Not that God's willing for any to perish, but he knows who it is. As Yeshua said, I know who my sheep are. I know who they are. I know them, and they know me. So thank you for choosing us, Lord. Let's just do a few more scriptures, just on chosen. I'm not going back into the Torah much now tonight, because we've nearly finished chapter 17, haven't we? Let's just do a couple more. Ephesians, this is my favourite. Ephesians chapter 1. You know, I'm not like a theologian, as you know. I'm just quite simple. And I love what the scriptures say. I'm not going to get into discussing about predestination with anyone. I'll just stick with what the scripture says about it. All right? Chapter 1 of Ephesians, verse 3. Blessed be the God and the Father of our Lord Yeshua the Messiah, who has blessed us with every spiritual blessing in the heavenly places in the Messiah. Look, just as, this is what it says, just, and I'm not going to let anyone rob this from me, just as he chose us, you can put you in there, just as he chose you in him. When did God do this? Before the foundation of the world. That's what it says, isn't it? I mean, that's just what it says, isn't it? But what else it says? That we should be holy. That means God's form of holiness. And without blame, because that's what he wants, a spotless bride. Look, verse 5. Having predestined us to adoption. I mean, that's what it says, isn't it? I mean, that's just what it says. He chose us before the foundation of the world and predestined us to adoption. Adoption. Adoption as sons by Yeshua the Messiah to himself according to the good pleasure of his will. I mean, just take that on the chin. Or just take that into your heart. And don't question it. Just rejoice about it. And go, God, you chose me before the foundation of the world. Well, I know, I can understand now, because that's what your name is, isn't it? Your name's Jehovah, and that means who was, and who is, and who always will be. You see the end from the beginning. That's why he could say, Jacob I love, Esau I hate. Because he could see how this was going to end up. He knew Esau was going to sell out his birthright for a morsel of bread or whatever. He knew this. He knew Esau was going to despise spiritual things. He knows who it is. And we're here tonight because he has chose us. He's chose us. I love that. Just going to finish off now with John chapter 15. I've already mentioned John 15. Well, it's not even 10 o'clock yet. I'm going to finish now. John 15. I am going to finish now. Take on board what Justin said. People are travelling from a distance. We've got to get home. So, as Justin said, let's try and start a bit earlier now so we can finish a bit earlier. Chapter 15 of John. Lovely. Verse 16. You did not choose me, Yeshua is saying. We didn't choose Yeshua. I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit. No, just like that rod of Aaron. That's what I appointed for you. Because you were all dead in your trespasses and sins. And now you've got new life. And I have chosen you to be part of me, Yeshua is saying, so that you can be like that rod and bear fruit. Because then everyone will know that I've chose you. That's how people will know. They'll go, oh, look at that fruit in her life. She's chosen. This is how they'll know. I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit, that your fruit should remain. Amen. That whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. These things I command you, that you love one another. If the world hates you, you know it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you're not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Aren't you glad to be chosen? Oh, we're so glad. Father, thank you for choosing us. Thank you for choosing us, Lord. We know we're not saved by works. We're saved by grace, through faith. Because you're gracious and you're full of faith, and you chose us. And you loved us while we were still sinners. While we were enemies, you loved us and gave yourself for us. So help us, Father. Many are called, but few are chosen. Father, help us to walk in this ministry of reconciliation that you've chosen for us, Lord. Thank you that you've chosen us to be a holy nation and to be a spiritual royal priesthood, that we may proclaim the excellencies of you who has called us out of darkness into light. Make us a grateful people, Lord. Make us a thankful people. Thank you for the wonderful work that you have begun in our lives. And just like Paul, we are confident. We have got bittercon. We have got trust that you that began this good work, you will complete it. And we want this in our lives, Lord. In the name of Yeshua, I'll just say the Aaronic blessing. Yivarechecha, Yehovah be'ishvarecha. Ya'ir Yehovah panav alecha be'chunecha. Yisa Yehovah panav alecha. Ve'yasem lecha shalom. Yehovah bless you and keep you. Yehovah make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yehovah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. In the name of Yeshua the Messiah, the Sar Shalom, the Prince of Peace. Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Shalom, everyone. Hallelujah.